Looking for what comes next? For that moment when everything finally...
1 minute!
Whichever path you choose, it starts here.
Max Gear is a high-performance synthetic gear oil designed to provide maximum protection to heavily loaded gear. Slippery synthetic molecules and center-look additive package not only reduce wear, they virtually eliminate both gear and bearing wear. We run 1,000 horsepower through our transmission and differential all season long and never have a problem. Eliminate a variable. Drift with Royal Purple Max Gear. Pour purple, Royal Purple. You can find Max Gear at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
モータースポーツで得た高度な技術をすべてのレイズホイール一本に込める魂は永遠に変わらないビヨンド・ザ・レボリューションザ・コンセプト・イズ・レーシング
There's no better way to test your tires than on the racetrack. That's why at Kenda Tires, we compete with the same tires we sell. And that's how the technology built into every Bethesda UHP Max tire goes from podium to pavement. Whether you're a professional driver chasing podiums or a grassroots enthusiast looking for weekend excitement, Kenda Tires are designed for your journey.
NGK, the leader in high ignitability spark plugs, is proud to announce the launch of its Mod Performance Ignition Coils. Designed and built for performance, Mod Coils feature custom primary and secondary windings to increase output and performance. Mod Coils provide maximum levels of dielectric strength, voltage insulation, and durability. Level up like the pros. Choose Mod Performance Ignition Coils from NGK, the official coil sponsor of the Formula Drift Prospect class.
This is Formula Drift, what we call the Throwdown, the battle in Seattle. Are you with me? 1, 2, 3. Let's go, boys. The excitement is just palpable. You ready to rock? That guy's ready to shred. Oh no! Unleash the Kraken. And here we go. Let's send it! We got the win, mother. Let's go! That is all she wrote. An amazing event. Chelsea Denova gets the win.
What is going on, Seattle and everybody watching around the world? We're here in Monroe, Washington for the practice show, getting things kicked off. It's been an exciting set of practice. We've seen a couple of big hits, seen some incredible runs. We've seen a few drivers really coming into their own a little bit later on, some drivers struggling a little bit in the beginning, but overall practice so far has been really, really good and is going to set us up for what is possibly one of the best weekends we've seen all year. I mean, I don't want to say ever, but like it's looking really good. There's a lot of craziness going on as we take this drone shot over Evergreen Speedway with Jeff Jones out front and Matt Field following in behind. Joining me today is one of our judges, longtime judge, Brian Eggert. So we're gonna sit here, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna kind of just break down some of these runs, give you guys some information about what happened in the drivers' meeting, what the judges are looking for. You know, a little bit nerdier of a time. This is definitely, if you want to learn a lot about drifting in a very tight level, that's the idea here, is to kind of do that. So, Brian, what's going on? How have you been enjoying the weekend so far?
It's been good. The weather's been great this year. A little bit warm in the sun, but once you're in the shade, it's nice and cool. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's the weather's been, I mean, it's been cooperating, knock on wood so far. So Nick Novak out front, Madison falling behind. Nick's looking really quick here. I know there's been some talks about some change-ups with the Kendas as well, some size.
Yeah, he's done that once or twice already too, where he's coming off the bank just a little bit too fast, I think.
Yeah, so obviously within the judges game, that first outside zone, that big bank is absolutely massive. What are you guys looking for through first outside zone?
Yeah, we want you to stay high as you can on the wall and just basically go around the entire thing. When you come to the end, you'll see there's numbers there if the shot gets to it later where it goes 3, 2, 1 to kind of give them a heads up. And then we've got the little plastic sign with diagonals on it that kind of lets them know that's the end of the zone. Okay. So they want to leave there, set up for outer zone 2, come over here on the left and fill that. And then this is where it's probably the trickiest part of the course is they've got to transition very fast to get back across the track to outer zone 3. And they've got to do it in a quick amount of time in order to set themselves up for that third zone. Otherwise, they enter it late and it messes them up to get into the inner clip. So if you can manage to come off the bank at the right spot, get to outer zone 2, fill it, transition back across to 3, and then leave 3 on time to set yourself up for inner clip 1, you're doing great. And some of these guys out here have been doing it consistently all day, which has been a good thing to see.
Yeah, fingers crossed here. We're going to get a good, a good visual of what we're looking for. James Dean, current points leader right now, absolutely crushing in practice. So, whoa, lots of angle. Looks like the car checked up. That was very strange. I mean, there's the announcer's curse right there in full effect,
Yep.
right? Like, oh, it's going to be, James is going to show us what's going on, but there's so much pressure on the drivetrain going around that bank. And I mean, the tires are absolutely cooking. I mean, it's just not easy on the cars coming through that first outside zone. But yeah, this is a wild track that way. So what's going on, everybody? I mean, yeah, it's been good so far. I really do like this track. I like how dynamic it is. I like that you can set the car up to have a really, really good first outside zone, but it makes you sacrifice some of the things that are going to make the rest of the zones a little bit better.
Yeah, 100%.
Or you set it up for a really twitchy car through our other zones, but then you struggle a little bit more on the bank. So it's finding that balance between the two.
Yeah. Here we got Shanahan and Olsen, it looks like.
Let's see. So yeah, Shanahan, and we're watching the front wheels here in the lead, and you can see the different corrections that they're making come around so through there, and that's the transition we talked about. Didn't get super deep through that section, but sets them up for the inside clip, and then as we come through the fourth one, so that looks good there. So I think one of the biggest and the most difficult things to really understand is the chase. The lead, in my mind, is pretty straightforward. You fill all the zones as much as you can, you get in them as quick as you can, fill all of them, don't do anything weird, and you're going to get a pretty decent, judging call on that. But it's the chase where things get very convoluted in what the judges are looking for.
Yeah, and people kind of make different moves when they're in chase, depending on if they can see or not. You think about if you're on the left-hand or right-hand side of the car when you're driving, depending on which way the car's going, it's going to affect how much smoke you're getting in your face. Right here, Rudy's falling back a little bit. But, yeah, seeing he ran a shower line going through outer zone 3 to try and gain some of that proximity back. Oh, a little bit too much angle there.
Yeah. Rudy's still looking to get this dialed in. I mean, it's not a track that he's going to have a lot of experience on, making the jump up to pro now, so it's very different. You've got so much that you've got to learn really quick, especially at this track, because of how dynamic the slowdowns are.
Yeah, 100%. And most of the guys we've had a lot, they've already got their 12 laps in, so these are guys that still had a few left.
Yeah, that's, I mean, the new schedule, the way that everything has been laid out now, the drivers do have a cap of 12 practice laps, and we've seen a number of drivers already hit that. So if you're wondering where maybe your favorite driver is, Nick Novak coming off there again. So
yeah,
same thing that happened last time. He's struggling with something. We have, looks like something dang. Oh, that might just be the toe strap.
Yeah, it's toe strap.
Okay. Minoti finishing that up. So when we talk about the chase, there's 3 kind of big things that you guys are looking for. And by all means, correct me. I mean, I know you will, but correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. Line, proximity, and angle. Those are our 3. And we tried to break it down almost as like a hierarchy, but it seems to be more of like a triangle.
Yeah.
Right?
It's kind of one of those circles where you have the 3 things and you're kind of in the middle and you can pull a little bit from each one. Ideally, you want to be dead in the center, but for this, it's a little bit more line's probably the precedent one that takes precedent and gives you like what you're aiming for mostly. Then from there, I think proximity and angle are probably hand in hand, and that's what you kind of got to work at it. You could have really great proximity, but very low angle wouldn't be that great, but then you could also have really good angle, but be back with your proximity and not as close. We want you to kind of do both of those and have pretty good angle, almost match the lead car, and be really close to them. And see right there for a second, Jeff Jones actually had it like...
Jeff's got like a better line right now than Rome, but obviously the proximity is way off at that point.
Yeah.
Looked like Rome almost kind of balked a bit on initiation. I don't know if he's struggling with something, but
And there Jeff used a little tactic to kind of leave outer zone 2 a little bit early to try and get a little bit closer again. But at that point, it's pretty close to the end of the track, and it's hard to gain all that ground you lost in outer zone 1 just because of the sheer size of it.
Yeah, and I think the easiest thing that most of us are used to looking for is that proximity. You know, you see somebody on somebody's door and immediately think, oh, that's going to be a good run. But then once you step back from that a little bit and realize like how much angle they're taking out, or the fact that they're just not even in the zones, like the chase car still needs to be putting their car in these zones.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that most people don't really realize. So yeah, it's a little bit more, maybe not as intuitive as most people originally thought. I don't know if there was a particular year that shifted. I know this year's rule book is very different than ones in the past, but traditionally everyone thinks, okay, I just get the car as close as you can, but that's not really what we're looking for anymore.
Yeah, I think Daigo's probably the one that got us to really get that proximity close, but he also did it by cutting the line a little, cutting the angle, and since then it's developed into a lot more of almost a mirror where these guys can get within inches of each other and do a really good job of keeping the close proximity and matching that angle in line for the guys. So this year has been, I think, one of the breakthrough years on where that's really kind of stepped up again, where we hadn't had it for a couple of years.
We're essentially expecting all of these drivers to be able to get within a foot of the other driver. So once you have the majority of the field all doing that, it's like, how do we make this more difficult? Well, now we want you to have that same proximity, but you need to be following the same line. So you're actually going to be, you're actually going to be falling back a little bit.
Yeah.
Where you know, you might think that front wheel needs to be close to the front wheel of the other driver. You guys are looking for it maybe halfway down the car, so you can fill the same zone.
Yeah, probably around the door. And again, it depends on the turn and everything. If it's a real tight turn, it's going to be a little bit different than if it's something big and wide. So this outer zone 1 is so big and it's not like really tight, so they're able to get pretty close to the front that way. But yeah, it definitely depends on the turn. But ideally, I'd say like a rule of thumb is kind of have that front of your car and the door of the lead car.
Yeah, the pocket, if you will. I think that's something we've brought up a few times. You might see here too on the start line, there are 2 lines now for where the lead and the chase car are supposed to line up. This is to match up and make it a little bit easier for the drivers to understand. There is a rule in place as to where these drivers need to be.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, man, So Connor, Osbo.
Another one.
Hey. I mean, so Connor Shanahan, I mean, really has come in here and become one of the best chasers we've seen in a really long time. And he's able to get that proximity and that angle, but sometimes he does pull a little bit of line or angle out of the car to maintain that proximity. But ultimately, it's not like he's, 20 degrees offset from the car he's chasing.
Yeah.
He's within 5 to 10 degrees when he's chasing.
Yeah, and he's doing a good job of it, and especially for a lot of these tracks that he's never driven before, it's pretty impressive to see how well he's quickly learned some of these tracks when you have some drivers who've been here for a couple of years, and he's getting up there with them pretty quickly.
Yeah, his ability to adapt and understand what he needs to do on these tracks in a matter of a few laps, like even here, 2-3 laps in, he had it pretty much dialed. So
yeah.
I wonder if we can see what happened with Osbo on that, who his driving in practice has been so aggressive.
Yeah, no, I liked it a lot. So if he can continue with it, it'll be good.
Yeah, I think that's a good example. I mean, look at, so he's halfway through the car. He's filling the same level of zone that Osbo is. Now, he could have been potentially closer and kind of holding the left brake to hold the car back.
Yeah.
That is a better example there.
And again, this is practice. This is what we're seeing. So by the time we get to tomorrow night's show, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It's only this is the worst it's going to be.
Yeah.
Right. What you just saw there was probably the worst chase that he's going to throw down for the rest of the weekend, which is wild.
Yeah.
And then could have been deeper there through 3. That was kind of an element from 2, the way he's transitioning out of there.
Yeah, I think so.
So drivers meeting. What were a couple things that we were talking about? Maybe we'll get into the track and some of the decel zones that are going on here.
So yeah, here you go. We've got the 2 main decel zones, an initiation right before outer zone 1. Then when you're coming off, the drivers are scrubbing some speed when they come off outer zone 1 into outer zone 2, but it's not enough that it really makes it a decel because it's kind of gradual the way that one goes. Then when they switch and do that transition into 2 and a 3, that one's going to be kind of abrupt a little bit, so you're going to see that more. So that's why we've got that one red, and it fades into the zone where they're going to be using that angle to scrub that speed. Then when they pull off from there, they're going to go past interclip 1, and then again another transition into outer zone 4. Outer zone 4 this year is slightly modified from last year. We've actually, where before it kind of hit the wall there, and it kind of flattened out. This year it's got more of a full arc to make it a little bit flowy, better for the driver. So it's bumped in just a little bit. You can kind of see some of the shots, the old lines from last year, but that should flow a little bit better for these guys. So far so good.
Yeah, we've said it a few times this year. It's less of a triangle, more of an arc, right?
Yeah.
More of a C, less of an A.
Yep.
So you see all the tire marbles. These will come into into play here as well as the rubber starts to push up there. We're going to get some people out to scrub that. Judges' notes, I mean, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but quick initiation with angle on throttle to begin the outside zone 2. Close proximity to the wall. I mean, that goes without saying. Fill beginning and end of outside zone 2. I mean, that's really all of them, but outside zone 2 is very, consequential if you don't.
Yeah.
Quick transitions, use angle to slow for outside zone 3. So we're not wanting them to grab the e-brake or anything else. Like, transition from 2 to 3 real quick, hold that car at angle and use the momentum to get around there, and then use angle to slow. I mean, we have to cover that.
And the first one should be outer zone 1.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, so, essentially fill that whole outside zone. Now, does outside zone 1 maybe hold more weight just because of the duration?
I mean, when you look at it, I'd say outer zone 1 is probably the same size as the rest of the course. So
that's a good point.
It does set a lot, and I mean, depending on how you run that line, there's some drivers who have a really hard time getting up to the wall, and by running that lower line, it really messes up the chase when they're initiating, expecting you to be on the wall. So now they've got to adapt and run that lower line. And doing that also messes up how you approach outer zone 2 because it's not the same way if you're up against the wall filling the zone completely. So it does carry a lot of weight because that can basically, like dominoes, it'll affect the rest of the flow of the course for the chase driver when they're trying to follow that run that's not exactly what they were expecting.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, this is similar to St. Louis on the last round.
Yeah.
This is one of them where one zone, a mess up in one zone will affect the rest of the run.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's good and bad. It just means that the perfection has to be there the whole time.
Yeah, and
there's nowhere to clean it up, right?
And if there's a driver having a problem with one of the areas, they just got to kind of know what's going to get them the overall best score. So then they kind of just got to accept the fact that they're going to maybe, let's say they have to drop a tire at outer zone 2 in order to get back across and get outer zone 3 to interclip and everything to make it work. They're going to risk taking that point and dropping a tire there if it means the rest of the course is going to look great. Then again, if they try to stay on track, by doing that, it may set them up wrong for 3, which then affects 1 for interclip 1 or whatever. So now they're going to miss more points by doing that. So it just becomes a strategy at that point of where can you minimize your chance of making a mistake and not make it where it basically snowballs into a lot more mistakes.
There's something interesting that's been brought up a couple of times now in the drivers' meeting, which is, drivers asking like, oh, if I get super close in this point, is that good or bad? Or what if I stay back and play it a little bit safer? And something I think you've said it, pretty much all the judges have said it is, well, if everything else is equal, it's going to be the driver that had the better proximity or took the more risk to get into the pocket. And I think that's super, super important, that you can have a bit of a strategy in playing things safe. But in doing so, if your competitor, pushes a little bit harder in that area, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. And that's where it comes down to, like, the benefit. We've talked earlier today with some of the other judges. We were talking, like, the benefit of just being that first lead car is always there. You put down the lead run, you know what you've done. If you can do something that's consistent and really high up there in points for what, if we went on the old scale of qualifying and say you threw down an 85, 90 point plus run, you've now pretty much set the bar where that other driver has to do that or better to beat you. And now in the chase, you've got to just sit there and play based on how you did it. Do you think they can do it or not? And then you can kind of adjust how close you really want to get to them and risk it. If you think the other guy's going to beat you in that, then you've got to be really close on his door and chase. But if you think you've got a decent advantage over him, then you can kind of lay back a foot or two and not be so much on it.
Yeah, so let's take a look at basically the run-up. So this has a very big run-up. You can see a lot of the tire tracks that we get faint entries into our 1, 2, 3, and then hold it through that first outside zone. And look at just how long this is. I mean, and these drivers are, 100 miles an hour coming through this section. And then this is the slowdown we talked about, and this is where things can start to get spicy immediately.
Yeah, and some of the drivers were pouring on a little bit more angle there towards the end of practice, which was kind of exciting because they were really pitching it a lot and still able to make it flow and not mess up. So I don't know if that's partly what was happening towards the end there with some of them going off track, but when they were doing it probably midway through practice, it looked really good. Then, they go across the outer zone 2 or 3, and then the interclip, and then just the finish line we saw there. So should be a good time. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and something that's not within the track but a little off track is a little jump to the left of that. If you push a little too far, it might catch a bit of air. Take a look at our past champions here. I mean, obviously Chelsea Denofa last year, kind of just hitting it and quitting it, getting out of there. And then we've got all of our multiple-time champions, which is crazy. Frederick Osbo in there 3 times. James Dean in there 3 times. Chris Forsberg 3 times.
Yep.
What's Vaughn, twice?
Twice. 10 and 20.
Yeah. So, and then, kind of going back into some more of the historical stuff.
Yeah.
Michael S. Daigo Saito, we talked about. Tajiro Yoshihara. Tanner Faust. Sam Hubinet twice. Reese Millen. So, yeah, it's a good spread. I mean, you can see some of the eras of drifting, which is cool. I always try to break it down into these different chunks, and it usually comes down to some driver that's come in and really disrupted everything. So taking a look at our current standings, this is where things get interesting. And we've been running through scenarios kind of all day of like, okay, what happens if this happens? This event is very consequential because James Dean right now has a 118-point lead over top of Odie Bogshies. And then right behind Odie, you've got Freddie, Hiroya Minoa, and then Simon Olsen, who are all kind of within striking distance still. Now, James Dean, if he continues driving the way he's driving, very likely he can start to run away with this championship. It's not like he can clinch it right now.
Yeah.
But if he wins here, it is going to become almost mathematically impossible for someone to catch up. Not impossible, but it's going to get real tight. So that being said, if James has something where it goes out in 32, then all bets are off. Everything opens up again. So his first battle is going to be incredible. But we are going to be taking a quick break and coming back into our seeding 16, where we're going to see some of our drivers going head-to-head to see if they can make it into the program on Saturday. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on, breaking us down a little bit. And don't go anywhere, everybody. We're going to be right back with our seeding 16 here in Seattle.
This is Formula Drift, what we call the Throwdown, the battle in Seattle. Are you with me? 1, 2, 3. Let's go, boys. The excitement is just palpable. You ready to rock? That guy's ready to shred. Oh! Unleash the Kraken. And here we go. Let's send it! We got the win, mother. Let's go!